Hey there, I'm Brody Toriati from Spadahima, and I'm going to be giving you a 3-part tutorial on how to do the iron butterfly. In order to be able to perform the iron butterfly correctly, we have to start with the very fundamentals. So let's get started with that. So let's look at the basic sword anatomy. First off, what I'm going to tell you about is the false edge and the true edge of the blade. Okay, so the false edge of the blade is the edge that is facing towards you. Doesn't matter if I turn the sword, it's still going to be the false edge. The true edge of the blade is the edge that is facing towards your opponent, or the edge that is facing away from you. Next, we're going to look at our grip. Our right hand is right at the top where the cross guard is, and our left hand is going to be down at the bottom where the pommel is, like so. So we're not going to be gripping it with our hands together like this, okay? We bring it down to where the pommel is. So what we want to do next is we want to figure out where to plant our feet. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to plant my left foot forward and my right foot back, giving myself a nice wide base, and my weight is sitting nice and evenly in the middle. Now we need to figure out where we're going to position our sword. So with that, I'm going to use one of Fiore's postas, which is called coda longa. Coda longa is the sword is pointing out behind us like a fishtail, and the pommel is resting just at our hip there, with our guard nice and low.
Here's a wee image of the man himself.
So now that we've learned where to position ourselves and put ourselves in the correct posta, it's time to move on to the fun part and start swinging. So to perform this false edge cut, what I do is I bring the sword round in front of me and I cut up, like so, bringing the sword and rotating it back down. A good way to cheat with this is to slightly turn your blade so that you're leading with the false edge, and then bring it up, around and back down. So now that we've established the false edge cut, it's time to move on into doing true edge cuts. There are 2 true edge cuts and they're called sottani. From coda longa, I'm going to perform my first sottani. Back down again, sottani. Next up, we have our third and final cut. Now pay attention to this one, because a lot of people tend to trip up when it comes to this cut. It's going to feel pretty awkward because your left foot is forward and your right foot is still back, and you're cutting from the left hand side. Bear with me on that one. So as you can see here, my wrists are crossed. My grip isn't a vice grip like so, otherwise it's going to put my elbow and my body into an awkward position. So I relax my left hand there, and I'm just relaxing the sword handle in between my thumb and my index finger. Here, what I'm going to do is perform a draw cut coming up. When I perform my draw cut coming up, the grip on my left hand changes from relaxed to gripping onto the sword handle properly, like so. So our final part for this tutorial is to combine all 3 cuts together. Coda longa. Turn the blade slightly, false edge cut. Bring the sword back down into coda longa. Sottani. Bring the sword down onto your left hand side, down at your left hip. Sottani. Bring your sword back down to coda longa. Turn the sword slightly, false edge. Sottani, sottani. Bring it back down to coda longa. I've established the fundamentals where to position yourself and also the cuts. Now it's time to combine all these things together. What I'm going to tell you is probably one of the most important things. Don't rush into this. Build yourself up. Take your training nice and slow, get it nice and smooth first, and then you can start going fast. One last time, let's get our body into the correct position. My left foot's forward, my right foot's back. I'm going to bring my sword from posta longa down into coda longa, and then we're going to rest in this position here. So one of the tips I'm going to give you before moving on is, I'm actually not cutting in a straight line when I cut up with the false edge, and I'll show you that from another angle. Instead of cutting straight up like so, I'm actually cutting at a slight angle here. Now this is just making my cut a bit more practical. Now that my body and my sword's in the correct position, let's start combining all of the 3 cuts together, but doing them in a nice flow, starting off nice and slowly. Turn the blade slightly, false edge, true edge, true edge, false, true, true. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Now I can start building up the speed once I get a bit comfortable with it. Like so. So now that we've practiced the practical side of things with the cuts, we can start adding the flashy stuff in. And what I mean by that is we can start adding a bit more wrist control rather than making them full cuts. Now this isn't as practical, but it looks a bit more fancy. How we do so is we use our wrists. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And we can start building up the speed. Like so. Just bear in mind, start with the fundamentals first, start slowly with the big cuts, then you can move on to the more flashy stuff. Slow, smooth, then fast, then probably flashy. So there you have it, there's the Iron Butterfly. If you're interested in this sword that I'm using, this sword is from Fake Steel Armories. And if you like this content, please feel free to like and share it. There's also a donations box on my profile. It would go a long way and help me out because these videos take fucking ages to make. Thank you.